Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining me for another episode of Monstrous, the podcast. I appreciate you showing up for another episode. Tonight, we've got a special guest. We've got Barb Hartman, who's a good friend, and she's a researcher and investigator out in Washington, and she's going to talk with us about how she got started in all this and her eyewitness accounts and what she's gathered so far. So, Barb, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing fine. Thanks so much for having me. We've been having a great time over on Camp Nightmare Fuel together. And so this is great to be able to talk to you about Bigfoot because that's my favorite subject.
Absolutely. That's the subject that got me started in cryptozoology. I mean, I took a little bit of a hiatus from Bigfoot for a while, and I did some studies on the North American black panther in Arkansas and in the South for quite a few years when I was involved with cryptozoology.com. And then kind of came back around into Bigfoot, and of course now diving into the whole dogman mystery. But tell everybody about yourself if you don't mind.
Sure. Well, I was born and raised in Pennsylvania. How I got interested in, I was a little girl, and, I was probably 5, 6. And so I remember my dad showing me the Patterson Gimlin film, and I thought that was really cool, and my mom was like, that's going to scare her. But I'm like, no, I thought it was so cool. And I was like, are they real? And my dad said, well, yeah, like I think they are, and then we watched some of the documentaries and the Legend of Boggy Creek, which we kind of had a laugh about that, which I think it was good though, because if there was any fear, I don't know, my dad had a very sarcastic, dry sense of humor. And so he had a way to make everything funny, I don't know if he ever saw one. I'll tell you what he told me, that he and his buddies would go, and I know they would go every year, like 2 or 3 times a year, up fishing on Lake Ontario. And so the New York Canadian border on the east side. And he said that on one of the trips, it was an area that they fished that they had to hike way back in. They had to carry like a little canoe, so they could fish. And he said, we saw one. And he said, and I said, well, what was it? He said, well, it looked like a wild man. And that's all he said. And again, my dad had such a sarcastic sense, a dry sense of humor. I don't know. I believed him at the time. Was it real? I don't know. And now he's passed away. So I wish that I could ask him, because that kind of, I don't want to say obsession, but probably like the interest. I've had a strong interest in the subject my entire life. And it's kind of like, everybody knows, my kid's like, oh, mom, likes Bigfoot. So when we were moving out to Washington State in 2013, my youngest son actually said, hey, mom, do you know that where you're moving has the highest reported sightings of Bigfoot in the country? Because we live in Pierce County, Washington State. And I was like, oh, that's cool. But you know what, Robert, I can't say that I didn't know whether they existed. It's a interesting subject. It's fun for me anyway, but I didn't know. And then, so we moved here in 2013, and then in 2017, nothing though. I had no encounters, really nothing. I mean, we went hiking and blah, blah, blah. Never saw anything. I spent a lot of time in the woods myself. I love to hike and never saw anything, never heard anything. When we moved to our current home, which is on the Puget Sound, we're still in Pierce County. We live on a very rural peninsula. So we have one set of neighbors. Everything around us is just these deep, thick woods. And we moved into that house in September of 2017. And in April of 2018, my husband found these big human-looking footprints under our house, because our house sits on a very steep hill or a lot, it's like you come in, it's flat, and then a big steep area, which is where our house is. So there is a large area under our house that's just kind of like gravel and stone and dirt, and that's where he saw these prints. And he's much more of a skeptic than I am, but he said, I got to show these to Barb because I don't know what else they could be. So then within a few days of that, we also found on our beach these big boulders, I guess you would call them. And they're kind of like half buried down into the sand and the rocks. And they were overturned. Now, we can't imagine how anybody could have done that. I mean, you really need like heavy equipment to be able to do something like that. It's certainly not like, I don't even know how many men you would need to do that. But yeah, they were, and it was unusual. And a couple of the people that live along there, they're like, oh, that's weird. Like nobody knew what happened. So, again, oh, that's cool. Maybe that's what it is. But then we thought that with the prints, they were 18 inches. And we thought maybe it was something that, like, if it's a Sasquatch, certainly doesn't live here, probably passing through. Our house had sat vacant for many years. The woman that did live there, she was what they call like a snowbird. So she spent a lot of time down in Arizona. So, they probably were like, this is what we thought, what's going on with who's living there, what's going on, just curious.
Right.
And that was it, Then no other signs, no evidence. We did go camping in August of 2019. We went camping in the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest in southwestern Washington, kind of between Mount St. Helens and Mount Rainier. And we did the disbursement camping. So you basically just go into the National Forest, you pick a place, and then that's it. And that night I was awakened by, it was terrifying screams, howls. I didn't know. I mean, I was thinking, oh my God, is this Bigfoot? I don't know. I didn't know what else it could be because it sounded very human. It sounded like there was about, I'd say 6 to 8 creatures, let's say, whatever. And they were, seemed to be screaming like to each other, because like there were some to my right and some to my left. And I'm going to think they were probably a mile away. So while it was loud, it wasn't like they were, right outside of our camp or anything. But I was so scared, I didn't even wake up my husband because I thought I didn't want to call attention to us. Knowing what I know now, like they probably knew, they knew we were there, but I at the time didn't know. So oops, sorry, my dog. Hold on, sorry.
It's okay.
And as I'm listening to it and laying there, terrified, trying not even to breathe, I'm going through these sounds. Like, what are they? Because it didn't sound like anything like a Bigfoot that I'd ever heard. It wasn't like the whoops or the, all the things you hear on TV, or the Sierras. It was nothing like that. It was literally just sound like deranged humans screaming, but humans cannot hold their notes. They don't have the lung capacity, to hold it that long. So I'm like, I don't know what else this could be. So we left the next day, and I didn't even say anything to anybody, because I was kind of like a little bit in shock and a little bit like, wait, did I hear that right? Because I was the only one, of course, that heard it. But I got home and I did tell my husband, and then he's like, well, let's go, so we get on the internet, and I'm searching for all the sounds of all the animals in Pennsylvania, Washington State, right? And Oregon. What is there? Is there something that I'm missing? Nothing sounded like this. So really at that point, it was like, I don't know what this is. A few months later, I heard a recording. It was on the BFRO website of I think it's the Ohio screams or the Ohio calls. And that's it. That was it. Like, okay, that is what I heard. And so then I thought, wow, they are real potentially. So again, that was 2019. Nothing happened until 2022. And it was March of 2022. And our son got married in our backyard, and we'd cleaned everything up and did just spruced it up, and it was late March, so you're coming out of the winter season. And right after his wedding, one morning I look out, and the whole this whole like one side of the hill is dug up, and in that hill, it's this tight. They're called kinnick or I believe bearberries. It's real tight vines, that are very, very strong, held together. They basically offer, provide stability for the bank because it's so steep and whatnot.
Right.
So I know in the past, like clipping those things, and you can like break garden implements because they're so strong. So now we knew it wasn't a bear, which was the only other thing that we were thinking. We do have black bears once in a great while, in our area. Mm-hmm. So that is the thing that we thought. But we have a perimeter of security cameras all around the property, so there's no way that a bear could have gotten by the security cameras to that spot, because of how we're set up. So I at that point, I'm thinking, okay, I don't know what else this is. Talk to some people that like neighbors, but within a few miles, and that had lived there for a long time, and they were like, I don't know what that would be. Like, there's no, it'd have to be something that was strong enough. We don't have wild boars. We have raccoons, but raccoons would not be strong enough to dig this stuff up like this. I also found in this other area right in that general area, but it looked like a print. It was 20 inches long and very much looked like a print, but because of where it was, I can't be sure. Okay. So, that was it. Yeah. So that's the next thing. And then we didn't really nothing until 2020, same year, 2022, but it was early September. We live along along the woods, is like the woods line the whole one side of our property, and it was like wildfire season. And I said to my husband, we need to get out there and clean that up because there's a lot of just like, a lot of dead things and a lot of dry stuff, and let's just get out there and spruce it up a little bit. So we did that. And then it provided us this like beautiful view right into the woods where there's this little grove of like aspens. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be so great in the fall to see them when they're changed. It's going to be so pretty. So I think it was about 2 or 3 days later, actually, my husband saw this too. He goes, uh-oh, Barb. He said, look what your friends did. Because we've been watching documentaries, all this time, all these years. We're married 30 years. He knows there was a perfect tree break. It was like 15 feet up, and just this big branch was over, and it was like a twist. It was a break and a twist. We hadn't had any sort of weather, that would have caused that. And I don't, we're like, this is pretty cool. But then within 2 days, there's another tree now this is a smaller tree. This is bent over and kind of not broken, but bent, and it's tucked under the original break. So it's forming a perfect X. So at that point, I'm like, okay, this is pretty cool. And so I showed some of my researcher friends, because I've been in the, I was starting to get involved in the Bigfoot, like pages and stuff, and Russell Easterbrooks, I don't know if you know him, great guy. He was like helping me out. And then Mike Scott, another great guy, he was helping me out. And they're like, okay, you probably should now go and try to get some evidence, start, take pictures of this and whatever, if you want to prove whether you have or you haven't. And so I said, well, I think I'm going to go out into the woods that is, again, is borders us, because I had seen some really cool things out there, some wood structures. One was, it looked just like an igloo, but it's made out of sticks and branches. And also in another area, there's like some teepees and an amazing bush craft looking like a covering. Let me see how to explain it. It's like as if you take two branches and lean them against two trees that are close to each other, and then you take another branch and go what would that be? I don't know. You're basically forming like half of a square, okay? And then
Right.
it's against all right, so it's against a bank, and again against these two trees. I don't really even know how, because my son he crawled down to it and he said, "I don't know how this was made. This is pretty amazing." And there are all kinds of junk like on top of it, like there was PVC pipe tucked into it and stuff. We don't have in that area. It's private property, and it's like it's a land trust for the people, and it's like a lifetime land trust. I have permission to be on it because they're neighbors, but no one is allowed on it. So I ended up saying we asked if is anybody doing this kind of bushcraft, and then my husband asked him, and he's like, no, nobody should be doing that. So if you see anybody, let us know. So again, I don't know, but it certainly looks like, especially with the little teepees, certainly look like something that they say Sasquatch, can do, but don't know for sure. So after this X thing, which I think, and this is what the guys had, this is what Russell and Mike had said, that this is probably, there was a perfect barrier from the woods to our house, so we couldn't see in to them. Now that we've removed all that, they have to make a blind or whatever, to make sure that we're not seeing right into them. And so, so I'm going to go in there, and I'm going to do this, try to do it official, and took my phone. And they said, I remember Mike Scott said to me, now, whatever you do, like if you take your phone, but don't have it on, and don't have it like out in front of your face as you're walking through. No, don't. Just have it with you. Don't have it on, because you won't see one if you do. Well, I was not ready to see one, Robert. So I'm like, okay, I'm definitely taking my phone, and I'm definitely going to have it, turn it on, and I'm going to have it. And I thought, well, what I do, and this is what I always do, I kind of wear it on a lanyard hanging around my neck, but I just had it going. And thinking, I want to get in there and I want to take pictures and record these structures, but I don't want to see anything. It was about 4:00. It was the end of October, and mid-October, I guess. The end of so go out there, walking around. I was in there about an hour. I saved that igloo, that wood igloo kind of structure. I saved that for last. When I got about 15 feet from that, I heard a and it was so loud and strong that I felt it. You know what I mean? Like you feel it in your chest, like it hits you.
Yep.
And I was like, what? Oh my God. Like that. I don't know what else that could be. So I back up, and then I think, I don't know what else this can be, but I don't want to turn and run. That's not a smart thing to do. So I back up, turn around, walking toward my house, because I'm getting the heck out of there. And I start to have this this wave of vertigo and extreme dizziness. Almost kind of disorientation comes over me, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm thinking, am I having a stroke or a heart attack? That's got to be what's happening, and my heart's pounding, and I'm like, oh great, this is it. I'm gonna die here in the woods, and I'm kind of freaking out about that. But I mean, I was so out of it. Then as soon as that wave of that came over me, it was probably no more than 20-30 seconds, and then it left. And then I realized I'm not even walking toward my house. I was walking kind of in the opposite direction and more toward this deep ravine. And so and then at that point I'm like, what am I doing? Like, oh my God, it was like very, it was upsetting because I didn't understand what I was doing. How could I be that like turned around? But anyway, correct my course. I got to get out of there. Cause I'm like, I don't want to faint and have my family, find me out here or die or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So after I did that, so I correct my course. I'm walking back, and I get that feeling again, and it's a little bit worse this time. And I think like the only thing that kept me from like not just like falling down in in the woods, is that I was looking at this outbuilding we have. We call it a carport. It's basically like a pole barn, no sides. And I just kept looking at the roof of that and saying, just walk toward that, and don't you dare, no, you're not going to fall, you're not going to do anything, you're just going to walk toward that. And as soon as I got to the property line, that feeling left me. I mean, it was completely gone. And I was, so then I'm excited because I'm like, oh wow, I just got grunted at, and it may have been a Bigfoot. I looked down at my phone, and it's dead. I mean, it's turned off. I assumed it was dead, turned off. So and it shouldn't have been, because I go in on a full battery, right? But who knows? So I go down to the house, and I'm telling my family, yeah, I got grunted at. And they're like, oh, yeah, sure you did. You got grunted at by a Bigfoot. Sure you did, Barb. I'm like, no, really? But I'm like, I had my phone going, but my phone died. But then I plug my phone in, and it's charging a little bit. And then I realized I did get that. So I have those two grunts on my phone. Now, the problem is that, I mean, you can hear them. You can hear audible grunts. But, and I've had several people try to like clean this up, is that between me, I do this like humming thing. And then it was like a little, just what I don't know, and crunching in the leaves. And then I pause, and then it's the grunt. And it's hard to, clean it up, because it's kind of like you've got this crossover, in the sounds, but it's still audible. It's still. And so really, since then, it's just been, it's just escalated. I, right off the bat, I was like, okay, if these things live here, and because I felt like maybe, why don't they want us in that area? Is there like, is there babies? And also like talking to people that, were knowledgeable. I remember Tom Cantrell, he said to me, Barb, that was not an aggressive. How they grunt like that is not aggressive. It was just saying hello, and I'm like, okay, I don't know about that, right? Like, it was letting you know that it was in there, and they were probably trying to keep you out of the area, which they said, you probably got zapped. I didn't know anything about that. That's one thing I'd never heard about, getting zapped, or some people think it's infrasound,
Right. Okay, so let me ask you a question. Let me kind of back up and ask a question.
Sure.
You talked about at first, whenever you got there, the rocks on the beach, the big boulders.
Yes.
And that they were flipped over. Why do you think that they would flip those boulders over?
Well, there are things we live again, it's the Puget Sound, so that's a saltwater estuary. So there's there's a bunch of shellfish. There's I think they call it ghost shrimp. There's a bunch of things that are down in, like, the further you go down, the further. So that's what we're thinking, is that there was something that they were trying to get. I don't know whoever flipped them over. That's, that they were trying to get at them. Now the tide, it comes in twice. It's double than what, your regular tide would be. There, it would be, we couldn't see any footprints or anything, because when typically when tide comes up, it's like all the way, it comes all the way up. So we didn't see anything like that, except these big turned over boulders. That's what I get. Cause there's salmon, there's, what are they're just for, random fish. I think mostly salmon. There's oysters, there's clams, crabs, like I said, the ghost shrimp.
Right. So looking at the idea of the shellfish, which I think you're probably right. I'm sure that there was some type of prey animals that were underneath those boulders, in and around those. Have you found any areas where there's like a deposit of shellfish shells left over where like predators been scooping them out and just leaving the shells behind?
Yeah, there is and it's up on the on the tide line, and there there'll be like there's tons of mostly oyster shells.
Mhm.
And I don't see if you take oysters out, you're supposed to put the shells back in, because they can actually, I guess, reseed and reform. I don't know how that works, um, but so I can't see humans doing this. And like you said, and it will be, it's a lot, it'll be like a large amount. And it's not all the time, but I also think that's more like seasonal for them. But there's a lot of problems in the Puget Sound with in our area, unfortunately, with like pollution. And I think that they would they probably know when it's not good to eat, the shellfish. So
Right.
that's not, yeah. So we haven't seen the oysters, those shells, like in deposits like that. And that's something that we saw when we first moved in. We kind of didn't really think about it. It's not something you think about until you like, oh wait, what would be doing this? But also we do have raccoons. Raccoons could probably do that. Break them open with their hands. Birds, maybe not in large amounts like that though. That's the thing.
Right, definitely. And they're, of course, not going to be the ones to roll over a big boulder that's halfway
Yes.
down in the ground.
Yeah.
Okay, so the incident where you got zapped or the infrasound,
Mm-hmm.
so you said you experienced vertigo and you were kind of confused and your heart
Yeah.
was racing and everything. I don't
Yep.
know that I necessarily agree that that wasn't a more of a warning. I think it was. I think it was more of a warning of you need to get out of this area.
Yeah.
You're too
Mm-hmm.
close.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
and it's interesting too because we know that predatory cats like tigers use infrasound to kind of stun their prey.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and then you got confused. You were walking the wrong way. I don't know. I have a problem with it being something that was very passive unless you had a young one who maybe didn't understand quite what they were doing when they used that infrasound on you.
Yeah. Who
So
knows,
right,
Yeah. I mean, I agree with whatever. I can't say for sure. It wasn't something that there was no effect. So if it was something like that, if they whatever they're doing, it was strong enough to keep me awake. And certainly not that I was going to go running in there, but they don't know that, they don't know what I'm going to do. Um, I, I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, I really thought that it was more just brought on by adrenaline,
right.
that kind of a thing. That's really what I was thinking until I think somebody even asked me, about it. And because it wasn't right away that it was maybe 2 weeks later that I realized, 1 or 2 weeks later that I realized that, like, oh really, because I didn't know. I didn't. And even when you say like that, when people would say, I don't know, I honestly, Robert, I can't, I don't think I ever heard about that, because I didn't. I prefer to, before, it's totally different now, I prefer to watch the documentaries. I thought that they were an unrealized hominid. This giant, maybe remnant gigantopithecus. Here in the Pacific Northwest, just some uh, big ape that had the ability to hide well.
Right.
Very, I absolutely don't think that anymore. Well, I mean, and at this point, yeah, at this point, I know that I know that they're not, and I've seen quite a few. So, because what I've done is I thought, like, in order for us to live there and them to live there, because I mean, we have no ability, nor would I want to like chase them out. I can't even imagine. I just wanted to try to live peacefully, try to like coexist. And how would you do that if you just be kind, be whatever, be respectful.
Mhm.
some people, they said, and I felt weird doing this, but it's what I do now. When you go out on your back deck or you go in along the forest, you go in there, you just talk to them, tell them, hey, hi. Also, if I was told if you get any kind of weird feelings, any sort of trepidation, no, just turn around and stop. Don't go where you're getting these bad feelings, because it's something they may be trying to keep you away. And there's actually 2 parts of the woods there that I won't even go in anymore, because I know that they're very active. And I really think that especially the one is a nursery, because I can see them like with babies, like all the time. As a matter of fact, one of the first ones that I saw was, I think that she was definitely a juvenile, definitely a female. And she was sitting there looking at me, and she had her body like turned to the side, and she had a baby on her hip, and she was about 60 yards away. She was, her hair was like sticking straight out. So like if she had like an afro, but it was straight, and it was probably like 5 or 6 inches. I never saw that. I've never seen that again since that. So I don't know if I've ever seen her again, but she was sticking straight out, and she kind of like sat up, and cause she was kind of crouched over, she kind of sits up. And I'm like, oh my gosh, is that your baby? Because I didn't know what to do. I'm like, this is so cool that she's obviously trying to show me this baby. And then she stood up and kind of hitched her hip up and like like, here's the baby. And I'm like, oh, your baby's so cute. And she did it again. And a couple weeks later, and I was able to get a picture. And that is on my YouTube, like the cover photo or whatever. Of this thing holding a baby. And I mean, I think it's not, it's pretty clear, I think.
Okay, so you had the incident where you got involved with the infrasound, and got zapped. So what was the next thing that happened after that, I guess?
I think the next thing that was pretty significant would have been in December, the first week in December. So we have these security cameras, and they're motion activated, they're infrared, and have night vision. And we started to get like 20, 30 notifications overnight, and this went on for a week. But when you of a motion, and but when you go to look, there was nothing there. Then I started I'm like, let me listen to these, because I felt like there was one of the recordings had like a strange sound in it. So listen, with my earbuds and like all the way up. And I'm like, wow, this sounds like almost like gorilla noises or ape noises. But what happened is I didn't know how to save those, and I lost them. So I was like, oh, dang. So, but that, I would say that was that's the next biggest thing. Cause I thought that was definitely, and I had my family, my son-in-law and my husband and my daughter, everybody listens to them, my son, and they're like, what else can this be? Cause it literally sounded like gorilla, like monkeys. Then I realized that, or found out that, I can, manually watch, like turn on the camera and record and watch. So I started to do that. And shortly thereafter is when I started to get pretty decent audio. And that's just been consistent. Now that has really taught me what I do is, I say I try to do it 3 to 4 times a week, sometimes not, from about midnight till 4, 5 in the morning. I'll turn on a camera and listen for about 3 minutes. If I don't hear anything, move on to the next one. And I just keep going around and around. The most active one that I hear, that I record most of the sounds is our side view. And that's what borders the forest. So that has evolved into something really interesting in that, They literally will throw something at the camera to let me know that they're there, because they know that I'm watching them, or they know that the camera's on. Okay.
Mm.
Because, they get that infrared. So the light goes on, there's a red circle. Um, and I don't know, again, I don't have any other explanation for that, except that, yeah, I'll be laying there, and all of a sudden it's like plink, and to throw to throw something at a camera, and they just like hit it so precisely. They've never caused any damage though.
Right.
Never knocked the camera. So they know what they're doing. And there have been, I have a lot of recordings that you could literally see things flying at the camera, flying by the camera. And I think they're almost doing that, like, just to kind of have fun or whatever, because it's coming from all different directions, like these projectiles. Once in a while, they'll hit the house with something, like a rock or something. But again, thank God there hasn't been any like major damage or anything.
Do
And
you
so,
think that they know? Sorry to interrupt you.
yeah, no, no, no.
Do you think that they know that it's a camera, or do they just simply sense that energy off of that, and they're trying to get it back to where before you turned it on, to where they're not sensing that energy?
That could be. You know what? I can't tell you. I have no idea. Except that what it has evolved into is that, and this has been about maybe the last year and a half. So, like I said, so I turn the camera on, and within 3 minutes, if I don't hear anything, but so within that 3 minutes, they'll either, if they're there, they'll hit the camera with something, or there'll be some noise. And since then, if they're there, one of them will walk up to the camera, close to the camera, and make noises.
Hmm.
Um, I have one that coos. There's one that growls, and then there's the one who I have the most recordings. He's the one have heard the most, and has just this deep. I think I'd sent you some audio of that. This deep, like he kind of like snorts and grunts, and I think that he's the clan elder. And he's the one that I get the most, but I haven't had any recordings of him since probably April. So I don't know if he's moved on or what's going on. That kind of bums me out and concerns me. I hope he comes back.
I'm very happy to say that I believe the clan elder has finally returned. It's been very quiet on the home cameras, and so this was the first night in weeks, actually months, of audio evidence that I've captured of him. That huff is his signature greeting, and I would recognize it anywhere.
So my next question would be, okay, so I've heard a lot of researchers and investigators talk about, if you're out there with a camera or you're out there with microphones and stuff like that.
Mhm.
They know what you're trying to do, and
Mhm.
they don't want you taking pictures of them.
Mhm.
So I have a problem with that because there's kind of a logic that they know exactly what a camera is and that they don't want their picture taken. Well, I I I would be more likely to say they sense that energy wave off of that, and
Mhm.
it disrupts something with their electrical field or their
Mhm.
vision or something like that, rather
Yeah.
than to make that leap in logic that suddenly they know that you're trying to take a picture of them and that they don't want pictures taken of them. Because
Yeah.
now you're kind of jumping logic by saying that they understand what a photograph is when they've never, if you try to figure out Sasquatch culture or whatever, they're not going to know what a photograph is, and why would they care if you took a photograph of them unless somebody told them don't let somebody take a picture of you.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So yeah, so to me it has to be that energy wave, that the same thing that, when we put out game cameras, they seem to avoid game cameras because I think it has to do with the electromagnetic wave off of it, if not the ultraviolet, the infrared, whatever it is that, may be running with that camera. Would you agree, disagree?
No, I would agree. Like that is a good, I think that's a very good, that's a great theory because uh what I always do is I will always say, hey, I have my camera. I'm going to start recording, start taking pictures. If anybody wants to be in the pictures, okay. If not, then hide. I mean, I literally, that's what I say to them. And I've got, I've got some pretty good photos, video, but it's not clear. It's not like, it's not like Patty, like the Patterson Gimlin, it's not like that.
Right.
And I think that, I think you're right in that. I think that they, first of all, they move so fast. So, um, just them, turning their body or whatever, you're almost not gonna see that they're not going to be clear. And whether they vibrate, like some people say they vibrate at a higher frequency than humans, that could be. And I have had the cameras when I'm watching them or listening to them, I have had them turn off the camera, or all the cameras will go offline. So I don't know if that's a thing where they're like, okay, we don't want you, I don't know. I don't know if they have that intelligence. I don't know. Or that consciousness, not really intelligence, but the consciousness of what's going on. But when the other thing is what's weird is that if I will say, I will see them sitting. And again, they're about 60, 70 yards away and they're just sitting there, just chilling out. And I'll say, okay, no camera today. And then I can watch them for a while. Now at that distance, you're not going to see fine details, but I can observe them for a while. And then, and they know that, because that's something that I feel like it's a mistake when, and this is just my opinion, when researchers hear something or see something, if you go running toward it, I think you're shooting yourself in the foot. You're going to lose that. They're going to disappear, whatever, if they have an ability to cloak, whatever. I don't know. I'm not sure. But, and then because I really feel like you have to get them to trust you, and you can't, not by means of tricking them or something, because man, that could go really wrong. And I think that's another reason why people have potentially such bad experiences. Now, I don't think that they're all kind and good. But I think the majority of them, just, at least out here, I don't know, they're just want to kind of like live on their own. I think they're curious about us, and, just as much as we are curious about them, but it's going to be on their own terms. Obviously, they're going to feel safe. So.
Right. Because we're in their living room or
Mm-hmm.
their
Mm-hmm.
house. So
Yeah.
you've witnessed them a few times at
Yeah.
least.
Yeah.
So if somebody asks you to describe, okay, what does a Sasquatch look like? What would you say in general?
Well, yeah, I'll tell you, the clan that I have, well, my clan living around me, and I was told that there's two clans, and but that they have some of the members are related, so like two families, but are related, and they look so vastly different. It's such a diverse. There's some that are solid black. They're more like on the thinner side. They're muscular, but on the thinner side.
Mm-hmm.
And they look definitely more like almost like a silverback gorilla kind of a face, and more, the conical head, like really no neck. It just goes that slope down. And then there's some that look more human features, like a very like a Native American, and they're typically have like a almost like a green hue to them. And I don't know if it's because do they have pale skin, pale hair that's just, absorbing like the green around them, but they definitely have this more like green tint to them. And then there are others that are like auburn, brown, just they're actually the ones for me anyway that like I have a harder time seeing them. And I don't know, I'm not sure why that is, but yeah, so they have really diverse. Yeah, I mean, did I answer your question? I'm surprised though, like how different they look. All these Sasquatch that live together, they live together, same family, but they look so different.
Yeah, would you say? Yeah, I mean, you definitely answered the question. I'm just going to ask a little bit more.
Yeah,
Are
yeah.
they? Would you say that they look very apish? Do they look very human? Somewhere in between? Neither one?
I think most of them that I've seen, I would say more like they do have like ape features to their face, but not completely, like not completely. A lot of them are very like their faces are they're kind of similar again to Patty. But then there's some. There's also two that I've seen that have almost, it looks like a lion face. Like they have, it looks like a split kind of lip, like their top lip under their nose is almost like, there's, I don't know if it's a cleft. I don't know, but it is. But they and yeah, literally like a flat, like a prominent nose, but it goes like flat right down from their forehead to the nose, and then there's that split. Now, some people, they say, "Oh, that could be cat people or whatever." I don't know, but they look exact. Everything else looks like Sasquatch, like the body, everything except that face. And I've seen two of them like that.
Right. Now, is there a difference in their behavior as opposed to the behavior of the other ones? I mean, are they a little bit more aggressive, less aggressive?
I haven't had any that are aggressive, but the ones that seem to be more don't care that I'm seeing them are the ones that are just all completely black. They have very gray skin, like very dark, not black skin, but it's very dark, like a light gray skin. And those are the ones that don't seem to care at all. If I see them, and again, I'm not coming any closer than about 60 yards. But they literally just sit there like, whatever. Hey. And I've not seen any that are super, super, super huge and tall. I'd say most of them that I see like 7-8 feet. Now there was one that I could see the one day, and this is back at my house. He was in the very back. There's an area, and I call it Area A because it's active area, very, very active. and they will be, if I look in there, it's, you know, it's this area of woods that kind of, I mean, I can look at it from our property, and they're kind of just like, they'll be chilling, laying around in groups and sleeping or chilling, and then there's this area that they sit back in where they'll be holding like babies. And that's when I saw the big one. He was just in a silhouette, and he kind of like peeked out, and I was like, whoa, because what I'm looking at, they're about, again, 60 yards away. He was about maybe another 10 feet from that. And he just looked so big compared to them. I was like, oh, I don't know if I'd want to see him close up, you know. It was massive.
Right. That sounds like the alpha or the old
could be. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people, a lot of researchers and investigators talk about if they run into a family group or they're getting close to a family group. Usually there's the ones who are probably like young males who are out farther away, you know, hundreds of yards from the main group, and they're kind of set up as guards.
Mm-hmm.
And they're watching and listening for anything or anybody, any kind of threat. And then usually you have the alpha male who is sitting back at the main area where the females are going to be with the young, which makes sense. I mean, that's kind of almost the way that a lion pride runs, except for like a lions. Generally, it's a couple of brothers who are the you know, the kings. You know, so so. Usually I save this question to the end. This is one of Wes Germer's favorite questions. And what do you think Sasquatch is?
I think it is a human hybrid. I really agree with that. There's this study that was done that say the mother mitochondrial DNA is from a human female. Nuclear DNA, unknown. The father is unknown. And that to me makes perfect sense just because of what I've observed. You know, that's just my, and, you know, and I've had.
What's that?
Mind speak.
Really?
Yeah. But I can't, so one night, the one male, and I guess it's I guess it's mind speak. The one that I think is the clan elder. One night I heard him, and before I heard him, and I'm listening over, you know, like I said, listening overnight. And I hear him, and right before I heard, like as I'm hearing him, the word Mont, M-O-N-T, like flashes in my head. So I'm just like, I'm laying in bed listening to them, and I hear, and I see this Mont, and then I hear him, and I'm like, wait a minute, is that your name? And then this, he makes that, and I'm like, oh, wait, are you answering me? Like, I don't know what else to, and I'm like, is your name Mont? And, you know, and then I'm like, okay, if you are Mont, okay, answer me again. And it wasn't, because he was like, what do you like? Girl, you know, woman, what are you doing? Probably. Like, I've answered you twice now. What the heck? And I didn't, again, it was just flashed in my head. Another time I was referring to him as the alpha male. I was saying alpha male. It flashes in my head, clan elder. Like I'm the clan elder. I'm like, okay, I guess you're the clan elder. And somebody that I was talking to, they said, well, yeah, you know, that the Sasquatch are not, they don't have family units where they wouldn't have an alpha male. There would be an elder. There would be the elder, you know, the oldest male of the clan, who's, you know, that's it, the oldest male, kind of the leader. But no, they do not have alpha males. They're not set up like apes, and you know, where they mate with any female that they know. They have family units, and they mate for life. I don't know. And a lot of this information I get from Tom Cantrell, who has witnessed so many like of them and has been privy to so much information. from them. It's just, yeah, it's just really, it's amazing. Some of the stuff I know, like I sound like a loon, but I don't know what to say. It's like, this is my truth. And it just keeps getting kind of better and better, more interesting as the time goes on,
Well, it's okay to sound like a loon. We're all loons. I walk around in the woods looking for monsters. So
yeah.
who am I to throw stones at somebody?
Mm-hmm.
So okay, so going back to talking about what Sasquatch is, and you mentioned the DNA that
Yeah.
I think that was basically the DNA that Dr. Ketchum did.
Dr. Melba Ketchum, yes.
Yeah. Where we're looking at the female mitochondrial DNA or RNA. So if the female part is human, what is the male part? Because we're saying we don't know. We're saying it's definitely primate, we think, but we're not sure what primate, because we're not looking. We know for a fact scientifically that we can't hybridize with chimpanzees, gorillas, and orangutans and things like that, because we're too genetically dispersed from them.
Yes, right.
The closest ones are actually chimpanzees, and that was several million years ago where we split apart from them. And gorillas was even farther back. So what do you think that might be? Do you think it might be some relict hominid that we haven't come across yet, that we were still able to interbreed with? Or
I don't know. I have no, it certainly seems like there's something in it that would, there's something in their DNA that most of them have that kind of ape kind of look, but I don't know. I absolutely don't know. And I have to tell you, the one that I saw the closest, that was last year. And so, what was happening last summer? Now, I haven't been home this summer because we bought a place out. We bought a little house out on the Olympic Peninsula that we're going to put on the short-term rental market in this like beach community. And it is so active out here. Oh my gosh, which I had heard that it was, but I can't, it's just like, whoa. So what I found out here is kind of a lot of what I found at home. There's this area, it's like a logging road that I walk on, and they're sitting up along this ridge, and they are probably 100 yards from me, but you can see that they're moving and they're looking, they just sitting there and they're watching, and they just sit there, and there'll be like different ones in different spots, but I just can't believe how it's like, are you kidding me? And they are. And also, man, once it gets dark here, you can hear howls and whoops and, and some screams and stuff like that. So it's just been very interesting. What happened to me just last week, and I released the footage or the audio this morning, is I was in I'm in the kitchen here, and again, it's a tiny little house, and I'm hearing this like whoop, 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 like outside, this little but between the little houses, and we were the only ones that were here because this is like a lot of rent, a lot of people that own, but they don't live here permanently, just like us, and it was during the week, so there wasn't any renters here. And I'm hearing this and I'm like, what in the world is that? So I thought, I'm going to just try to get this I'm just going to try to record it. It was like 9:15, 9:10, 9:15. So it sounded literally like a little kid going, hoo, 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 hoo. But I thought, there's not going to be a little kid because it's pitch dark, out there doing this. And I got it on I was able to get it on my handheld recorder. And what was weird was that this thing was I went, like I was like, oh, like I heard it and it giggled. And then I got it sneezing. This is just oh my gosh. And I said, wow, thank you, or something like that. And it was like a whoop. it just blows me away. I don't, I don't even know what to say. So I had to I had to share that with you because my gosh.
Exactly. So when we look at Sasquatch,
yeah,
most of us start out with a very, flesh and blood.
Yes.
It's like you said, Gigantopithecus, or
Mhm.
it's a relict hominid, or some version of human, or something like that. And then the deeper we get into it, the more we run into really strange things that happen whenever these things are around or when we're looking for them. Just like you talked about the mind speak, about the being
Yeah.
zapped, about cameras dying or phones
Mhm.
going off and things like that.
Yeah.
What other kind of strange things have you experienced whenever you're looking for them or they're in the area?
Well, certainly, like I said, if I feel like if there is something that they mess with the cameras all the time. I think that they had zapped this one front camera that we had, and the reason and like killed it because we were renovating our house and we were my husband was putting siding in the front in this area, and which is normally where this one camera was posted, and up like on a or stuck like up on a peg. And he put it down one night, and overnight we got a recording of it. Looked like a Sasquatch that was kind of, and now not a huge one. I'm thinking a juvenile, probably like 6 feet tall. And I think it was just the back of it, but you can see the conical head and it was kind of bent over. I don't think that it realized that the camera was moved because where it was would have been outside of the view of the camera. So that's one thing I have to say, like they know. I don't know how they do, but they know, enough to stay like outside of that, except we moved the camera. So I got some footage, some pretty good footage. And then after that, within a week, the camera dies. Now, could have been a coincidence. I don't know, maybe. We had a light up by our driveway as like coming in the entrance, and now this is a light that is dusk to dawn. Okay. So no way to, unless you're unplugging, and no way to even turn it off, but it was going off and on overnight, like off and on, off and on. And it was always when I'm getting, the audio of them vocalizing in that area. Now, here's something that's super weird. When in May, we came to the house out on the Olympic Peninsula, and I think they were like trying to get my attention. And this is going to sound so bizarre. It happened to me for about 2 weeks, and that's it. And it has not happened twice. At night, so I have my earbuds in and they're wired, okay? Because I can hear much better through wired earbuds, versus the wireless, okay? So I'm listening, and all of a sudden the volume goes down, like, and I'm watching it and I'm like, wait, am I bumping the button? I'm not even touching it. So I turn it up. It immediately goes back down, and I turn it up. Didn't do anything for a while, but then it starts like to go down. It was almost like they were like messing with me. And this went on for 2 weeks, just about every night. But then it stopped, and it hasn't happened since. It's the same phone. It's the same set of earbuds. So I don't know. And I feel like they were kind of like, hey, what are you doing? Where are you? Because I wasn't watching the cameras at home that much. I don't know. Maybe this is all speculation on my part, but what else? It's a great coincidence if that's what it is.
Right. Right.
It was comical. Like I remember the one night I'm like have my thumb on the button, like trying to get it to stay the volume to stay up and not, and it was like, and it was there, whatever, fighting to make it go back down. It was so comical. I don't know.
That's weird.
It was really weird.
Have you ever experienced anything like orbs or flashes of light?
Yeah, like on, you all have those on the camera. And I have taken pictures of them. One that was pretty cool, but like, and I don't know about that. I'm not sure about, because people will say, do they travel through orbs? I don't know about that. I haven't seen anything, that I would say, oh, definitely. But one night, so we, like I said, live on the Puget Sound, and it was a full moon, but it was cloudy. But like the moon was like shooting, like moonbeams are shooting down on through the heavy cloud cover down onto the water, like these pinpoints. It was beautiful. And I'm trying to take a picture. I had my phone set on the night setting. So I'm trying to take a picture of this, and it wouldn't, I could not get it to, I could get it to work. So I'm just keep trying to take the pictures, and I see this like bright orb in one of them. And I'm like, but again, I don't know if is this water vapor, because we're right on the Puget Sound. So later on, when I went back to look at them, there's a series of 5 photos, and they all have this orb in this one spot. And the orb goes from like white, and then it goes to an orange, almost like if you've ever seen, like a lunar eclipse.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what and so it went from white to then orange, orange, orange. Then it kind of like split apart, and it looked like there was like smoke coming out. And then the next one looks like two eyes, like eye shine. And it's all in the same spot. And I don't know. I don't know. Like that literally looked like this orb went from white orb to whatever orange, splits apart, and then you have the eye shine. Now, unfortunately, like that's all that I got. I mean, I think it's pretty cool, but I don't know what it is, and I don't know what other explanation that there would be for that. What would do that?
Right. Yeah, I know in our research, there's times where we're up there at night where we'll see, and actually, like the flashes of light, it's almost like a camera flash goes off.
Yes.
And we'll see that from the forest, and sometimes you even see it in the daytime. I've actually experienced it coming directly out of the sky, and I thought it was some kind of lightning at first, but there's perfectly clear sky. But there's times where you'll see orbs kind of floating through the forest at a distance, and that this is an area that's got activity. There may not be any other activity going on at the moment, but you just kind of see these momentarily moving through the forest, and it's kind of, they're self-illuminated, and it's like, it's really weird because it's kind of like the deep sea jellyfish and stuff like that, how they'll put off light, but they won't really super illuminate everything around them. Right. You'll see a little bit of light pass on maybe like a tree trunk or something like that, but it's not like it's not like a flare or a flashlight or something like that. It's just it's very odd.
And I did have one. This was strange. This was kind of early on when I was recording with the cameras, and and the camera that I got this on it's like our lower deck, which is kind of underneath the top part of the house goes out further. So this is then the lower part. So this is all like a covered area, and I think that they sit down there at night when it's raining because there's a huge area for them to sit. And this one night, I thought it almost looks like a larger Sasquatch with like a smaller, maybe a child or whatever on its lap. And it looks like there's orbs, like there was like an orb forming. Now, I don't know. I have no explanation. And I know it sounds super weird, but I have I have a video of this. And then one of the orbs, it was like it shot toward the house and like thunk, like it was like it hit I think one of the one of the beams that like holds up the house, because it was like an audible, like a thunk. Now it wasn't a rock, it was literally like an orb. So was this energy? And this opened my mind to like, oh no, like can they do this? Can they like make a ball of energy, throw it, and it will make a concussion? It's going to hit something. But yeah, there's I have no explanation for that. And I'll still see, again, once in a while, I will see orbs. I don't, because where we live, I just don't give a lot of I don't give a lot of credence to that, because if there's any sort of vapor, we have the marine layer coming in, that'll create all kinds of orbs. So I don't really, yeah.
So oftentimes where there's Bigfoot activity, people will experience not only the paranormal stuff that goes on, like we were talking about, like with orbs and sounds and, the mind speak and stuff, but they'll also experience from time to time other entities that they can't necessarily explain. Have you ever experienced anything like that? I mean, you could call it
Yes.
Dogman, the Rake, whatever,
No.
Have you?
Yes, I have. And this is that now, again, this is one of those things, like, for a long time, Robert, I didn't tell anybody this because I thought me telling this is going to sound like a complete, like, whoa, Barb, whoa. Last fall, one night I took our dog out, and it was dark enough that, like, I could just see the silhouettes of the Sasquatch. Were like, they're in the woods, maybe not even quite 60 yards from me. They were probably a little closer. But it's dark, so I can't really see the features too well. My dog's kind of like freaking out. He wants to go in. So he does his business, and then I take him back in, and I go back. I walk back out, and I'm like, hi, because I thought this is odd that they're coming like out, not out into the clearing, but they're in the tree line, and I can see them so well, like, what's going on. Then I started to feel this like this vibrating energy, almost as if my body was like look, when you get shocked by something and it's the point where, it doesn't hurt, but it's uncomfortable. And I'm like, okay, sorry guys, like, no, stop, because if that's you, this is too much. It's too much energy. Then these things, they walk out. This is like, they're men, human men. And they have long hair. They almost look like, kind of like you would think like Vikings, but they weren't dressed like Vikings. They had like bare chested, big, huge, like, muscles. Have you ever have you ever watched Game of Thrones?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so the Dothraki, that's what I would say is most similar, but there was one that had bright orange hair. The main one seemed like he was like blonde, not super light blonde, but definitely blonde. And then there were 2 or 3 others, and they had like more like dark hair. The ones that I noticed the most were the tall. He was the tallest one, the blonde. And I'm like, what's happening? Because they like walk out, and they're standing with the Sasquatch, and they're taller than the Sasquatch. And what I got in my mind was, they said, like, I don't know, like, we're the ancients, and we're here to help. But if we get involved, then everything's going to change. That is what like the message I got. And then, and this is really bizarre. Then I'm like, okay, I was getting that the energy that they were putting off was way too strong. So I'm like, I don't know what's happening. I'm sorry. Like, okay, I'm going to go in because I don't even know what to do with this information. So I had to take a shower. So I go take a shower. And as I'm in the shower, I hear this, like, almost like a snort in the bathroom, and like a large exhale. And I'm like, oh my God, are you in here? Like, did one of them follow me in here? And I was like, oh, I was scared. It scared me, and it pissed me off. because I'm like, what are you doing? Like, nobody's allowed to come in the house. Certainly not when I'm. And then I got this feeling like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, I didn't know. Like, whatever was in legitimately did not know, like, what I was doing. Like, they're, then maybe they don't know what showers are. I don't know, and it was like, I'm sorry, like this feeling that I got. And then when I was done with my shower, I went back out on like out on the porch, and I'm like, and they're still kind of there, but the only one that I could see was the tall blonde one, and I think he was like the leader. And again, this was a little bit of mind speak. It wasn't words; it was kind of like pictures, and it was like, we're sorry, almost like, we're sorry, ma'am. That that was so we didn't know, and so he's very sorry, inappropriate. We're gonna leave. We will be back if you need help, but if we get involved, things, just know that things are going to change. And I've never seen them again, so I don't know what that was all about.
I don't even know where to go with that.
I know. And then so let me see. It was just in I guess it was June that I don't know if you know Jane and Gerald Fountain. Oh, I love those two. They Midwest Night Watchers and Chiro Sounds. And I've known them for a while, and they're so sweet. And I was on their show, and all of a sudden, there I am telling the story about the ancients. And I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I even doing this? People are really going to think I'm a Looney Tune now. But I don't, I mean, it is what it is. And they were actually talking about something about like these entities that people had been seeing, not identical, but similar. And I'm like, well, I might as well just tell them, because some of this stuff is, I know it sounds crazy, but if we don't tell like our truths, then how are we gonna get the data, to come up with some solutions or even make conclusions,
Well, that's absolutely true. I mean, I have weird hypotheses and theories about stuff. Everybody thinks I'm, just strictly science or whatever, but I whenever I was younger, I had a whole lot of paranormal stuff that happened in my life. And so I'm very open to the woo factor of everything that happens. So what would you say probably is the most frightening experience you've had with Sasquatch?
The most frightening is that when there's been a couple of times, and it's just with the audio, that I will be, again, so I'm listening, laying there in bed, listening to this, and typically it's kind of the snort guy, the clan elder, but once in a while they come up to the camera so close. There was one night that I was laying there, and it was really quiet, and all of a sudden it was the snort, like grunt, but like and a growl, like right up at the camera. And I was like, oh my gosh, I threw my phone, because I'm like, it was so scary, like it scared the crap out of me. And I'm like, okay. And I'll tell you, that night, it was, and for about 2 weeks, it really disturbed me, because I thought, I don't know if I want to do this. I don't know if I want to listen to this. I don't know if I want to live here anymore. Like I had a whole thing, like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. And then I had a conversation with Tom Cantrell, and he said, Barb, if they know that I'm sure that they know that you're listening to them. Maybe it's just coming up and saying hello, and they sound scary. And I'm like, oh, okay. Because I mean, they've never done anything aggressive or physical, physically aggressive, or they do sound scary. So that I learned my lesson from that. There have been a few times. There was one just maybe 2 months ago that I got this really scary. This is a different one. That was very close to the camera. I think it was almost like, I'm thinking it was sitting on the roof and was down next to the camera and was doing this growling. And I have video of that. And that was scary. I just turned the sound down, because I thought, I do not want to not get this, but I can't, it's too scary to listen to. So that's really the scariest stuff that I would say that's happened to me.
Right. What would you say your hopes are for the future of your research and investigations out there where you're at?
I don't know. I hope that I don't know if it's going to come to a point where they say there are people out here in the Pacific Northwest, they claim that they can I'm not saying, sit there and have break bread together or whatever, but they can be in their presence and actually like stand there and like look at each other. I think that would be kind of cool. Which I mean, I guess I kind of have had that, but like of a more of a closer, a close up without me being fearful. That's what also, but it is, the thing is though, and I know it sounds ridiculous. It's like, all you do is you want to take, because I am like, at this point, I'm obsessed with getting more evidence. So you're listening for them and you're trying to take pictures, and and I go and walk out I go walking, it's particularly out on the Olympic Peninsula because it's so cool because they're just sitting there and I can take pictures, and take video. But I also, it's like, there's this intimidation, like they're just this big, huge, entities. What if they're like, okay, we're all gonna like, I don't know, walk up on your deck or something. Like, I don't, that's too much. That's kind of, I'm still scared of that, like that situation. But so, I don't know, Robert, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. And, I think it's cute, like with the little ones that they sound adorable, and maybe that's what it'll be. But I also think that they know my fear. I don't know, maybe, because they say they can sense fear. So they're going to try not to even do something that's going to scare me. I don't know, because I don't know.
Do you have any fear that something more negative might transpire in the future?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Because that could, that really could, that could happen. And we hear things like that, a rogue comes through and chases them, and they're like, we're not going to deal with that. And they leave. And then the whole, like process changes, the whole dynamics change. And I do fear that could happen. I hope it doesn't. I've known at this point, I've known people that like kind of had relationships, like copacetic relationships with them, for years, and that doesn't happen. So I'm just hoping that, that it continues. But it's so therapeutic, like to kind of like to talk to people. Like there's a guy in my area, Kevin Royce, who he has the same. And we found this out just by comparing notes. He's about 5 miles from me, like as the crow flies. And we have the same clan members. They'll show up on his, on his property and show up on my property. And it's like, oh, like I was talking about the one with the sticking out hair. And he's like, oh, I know that one. I've seen her before. And they also share common, like personality, or, they don't people will gift even like little trinkets and stuff. They don't really mess with any of that. I've not had success with trying to gift. I don't gift them food. Like if I do, it'll be just like a small amount, like once in a great while, like some apples, or, well, they definitely don't like oranges. I found that out. And they were like, the bag was like torn open, and it was like thrown all over the place. So I don't, and you could see like bite, like there was like a bite. And yeah, I think they definitely didn't like that. They like grapes, but that's just, I have a grapevine, and they'll probably already got at that because I haven't been home. So they like to eat the grapes. And that's interesting because we're talking about like, you have like a bunch of grapes, and they'll just be, the whole bunch will be gone, will be picked off. And there's no destruction of the grapevine. It's almost like a human came in, cracked a bunch of grapes off, at that point, broke it off and went. If a deer comes in, they just kind of eat, everything, or the birds are going to like pick berries, pick the grapes off singularly. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's just a different behavior. So yeah.
Well, it was a ball having you on here, and I really enjoyed it, and I hope you did. If you would tell everybody where they can find Barb Hartman at.
Sure. Well, I have on Facebook, my Facebook page is No Drama, Bigfoot and Cryptids. The reason I started it, a lot of pages are doing it now, but I started it because I absolutely no tolerance to rudeness, to bullies. You basically, you can submit anything, you can submit questions, pictures, and and we're gonna try to take it serious. Like if I obviously we're gonna ask questions, and if somebody's like, oh, why, if there's any if I get any sense that somebody's trying to like pull a fast one or whatever, you're gonna get you're gonna get booted if you laugh, if you make rude comments. No, hit the road, because I want people to be able to ask questions, share evidence, share information, so we can, let's see if we can get a little further in the research. That's Facebook. My thing now is mostly on like YouTube and Rumble. I have the No Drama Bigfoot, and that's where I submit my evidence. And I have tons of it, but not everything can go on because it's not, I'd say like the best, quote unquote, best stuff that I have goes on YouTube. And and then I'm you can find me with Midnight Lycanthropy with Kenny Thibodeau, and we also do Camp Nightmare Fuel. We've had you on for a few of the episodes, and I have my own show, but I used to do it regularly and live, but I just all of this was cutting too much into my research time. So that show's called Open the Door, but that's all on my YouTube channel, and that's where I'll do like interviews, people that have had similar situations. There was a woman I just interviewed the other night that had a dog man sighting on the Olympic Peninsula, about 50 miles, I think, from me. So just things like that, kind of like what you're doing now.
Exactly. Very interesting. And I hope everybody will check out Miss Barb's channel. And Miss Barb, if you'll hang around just a second, I'm going to go ahead and close this.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It was fantastic having you on. And if anything new happens, let me know, because I definitely want to have you back on.
All right.
Hang on just a second. Okay, everybody. Thanks a whole bunch for showing up for this episode. I had a blast talking with Barb. I hope you had a blast listening. And like I said, we're going to try and have her on again in the future if there's any updates. So what I tell you every single time, make sure you've locked your doors, lock your windows, check in the closet, check under the bed, because monsters are real and you never know when they're going to be back. Everybody have a great night. Bye-bye.